The clock is now running on the Playbook podcast, the podcast where you take a deeper dive into the game of business, leadership, teamwork, character, the things that drive your motivation and build dedication. When you get a good look at the game plan of great business leaders, you start to formulate your own playbook and your own rise to the top. Make your next play your best play. And now, here are today's game captains, Glenn Amaral and Andy Phillips. Let's go!
And welcome back to the Playbook podcast. I'm Andy Phillips. Joining me, as always, is my partner in pod, Glenn Amaral. Glenn, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
We have another, as always, but another exciting guest on the show with us today. And without further ado, I'm just going to have you take it in and introduce our guest for us.
All right. Well, today I'm pleased to present Stacey Ballard, who's the president of the commercial division of EDA Enterprises, which is a leader in commercial and residential real estate in the main line, which is basically southeastern Pennsylvania. They do a great job. Hello, Stacey. How are you today?
Hey, I'm fantastic. How are you guys?
Awesome. So basically, as you know, Stacey, what we do is we have a first half and a second half. So I'm going to kick off the first half. So you're going to be receiving the ball here. So I'm going to start out with a question. Obviously, we've kind of beat this COVID thing a lot, but it's in commercial real estate. There's a lot of changes in this. I know a great public speaker. He talks about dream big and pivot bigger. So how have you pivoted on the commercial real estate space with the hybrid working and all that kind of new changes to the marketplace?
It's interesting. We were just talking about this in our office the other day, and looking back on 2020, is 2020, your vision's 2021, right?
Right, exactly.
The irony is just like sickening, but it's, I look back on the things that we did and the policies that we put in place. And I have to say that I'm really proud of our company because it was hard. It was hard because there was so much involved with the emotional part of it. We deal with our clientele is predominantly small businesses. So, when they're not open, they're not making money and they can't pay their people and they can't pay their bills. It's, obviously they have some savings or they have money socked away for a rainy day. And EAT is a small business too, really, in the scope of things. And so we have money socked away for a rainy day, but you don't think that the rainy day is going to be a typhoon or a tsunami that's going to hit the way 2020 did. So, I look back on it and I think, wow, at the beginning, we had no idea that it was going to be as bad as it was or as long. I think that it was the distance run of it that was so hard. We all could have handled a little sprint, but it was just that long term and the unknown. So, we lost a lot of tenants right at the get-go. And those tenants were tenants that were coming into the economy, riding the wave, really didn't have the kind of funding behind them that they could manage a long-term downturn. So those guys were gone. And then, we had a lot of tenants who lasted and struggled too, because some of them, it's a mom and pop business, right? They don't have big payrolls. So PPP money didn't help them either. There just wasn't a lot of good support for a lot of small businesses that were in that situation. So we did small increments. We were like, okay, let's handle 3 months at a time because we don't know. So and we do half rent, defer the other half for a while. And then we do half rent another 6 months, defer for a while. And people are like, okay, when do I have to pay this back? I'm like, I have no idea because I have no idea. And that seemed to work. Then we lost a group of tenants that were new businesses and they just didn't have solid root base yet. And if COVID hadn't hit, they would be in business today and they would be doing great. And that breaks my heart because like small business to me, I grew up in a small business. I work in a small business. I work with small businesses. And to me, they are like the backbone of America. They are the people who employ most of the people in America.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
They're the ones that, support little league teams, and they're the ones that do the things for the community that need to be done. They're the ones that invest money right back in the community. And they were just like getting clobbered. So to see some of those businesses that should have survived, not survive, just was horrible. And then, there was that kind of lull, and things started to kind of open up, and people were doing better. And we just spent a ton of time and money doing anything we could to help people. I mean, we were helping them fill out their PPP money. We were helping them. You need plastic, sheets in front of your cabinets or your counters. We'll come in and put them in for you. I mean, some people, how do I do this? And we would help them do whatever. And if people ask, we just tried to do whatever we could. And actually, 3 months into it, when we knew this was a longer term problem, it was better, because the first 3 months we would come to work every day because we are considered essential, and we needed to be here in case, there's a roof leak or a plumbing problem or whatever. And we would do work for about an hour, and then we would do puzzles, jigsaw puzzles in our office for like 3 hours. So then 3 months into it, when there was actually something to do, we were really energized and like, okay, how do we do this? And we have just an amazing team in our office that is committed and really has been here a long time, and loves our tenants. I mean, these people love our tenants, which I do too. And it's so nice that we have this group that really cares about this community, which is terrific. So
that's fantastic. And
yeah, it was hard. I mean, and then I say, those tenants that have survived and done well, exactly what you said, pivoted well. I mean, they were like, okay, they just, it's like lick your wounds, have a pity party, get drunk one weekend, and on Monday you're on it and decide what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Do.
100%.
Life is that way too.
I tell Glenn all the time, in sports, the one thing I learned was no matter if you win or lose the game, you only have 24 hours to celebrate or 24 hours to sulk, and then you got to get back on it. And I think a lot of people really had to do that. And there's a lot of losses during it, but you only have to give yourself, you said, you can go get drunk on a weekend or you can pout for 24 hours. But either way, you got to get back on that saddle and figure out what to do.
That's right. And those are the people that have really survived. And you know what? That's the cool part about small business people. They're super innovative. They're really creative, and that's why, and they're entrepreneurial. So, and they got that fire in their gut, and those are the ones that have done great. And we have a lot of tenants that are like that. And they went out of the gate running. They were, okay, we're going to do this. And that's what we did.
Awesome.
So I got to ask you, I'm looking at your the first two words on your LinkedIn are historic renovations. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the single coolest historic renovation you guys have done? Because in my head, I feel like that'd be pretty hard, because when you're doing historic renovation, again, this is me from a non-real estate side, how I'm envisioning it and how a lot of people probably listening are going to envision it. I'm viewing it as anytime you renovate something historic, you want to still make it look historic. And that can't be easy because materials are different than they were, say, in the 1920s or whenever you're restoring something. So what is the coolest renovation, and maybe what's the biggest challenge of renovating a project?
So the main line where we are located, southeastern Pennsylvania, has an incredible amount of history. And, from George Washington to Valley Forge Park to all of those things. So where we are along Lancaster Avenue, Route 30, which goes from Philadelphia all the way into Lancaster, there are a ton of buildings that were constructed in the mid 1800s, early 1800s, sometimes earlier than that. And a lot of them are along Lancaster Avenue. So they have now become these, commercial or mixed use type buildings. And the owner, the original owner of our company, Ernestita, loved history and loved buying old buildings, loved it. I don't know that I have one particular project. But let me tell you the challenges. So the challenges are you're working in an area. So this isn't like Arizona, right? Where you can like develop a property and you've got all this land. You are limited with the constraints of what you can put on a piece of property. And so I'm going to answer that two things. So one is, when Ernest was alive, we would sit at lunchtime in his office and eat a sandwich, and we'd be at a restaurant and we would pull out a napkin. This is the famous napkin stories of everything that was negotiated on a napkin. Whether it was, a 20-year lease deal or whether it was working out a big project or whatever, it was always drawn on a napkin. And so we would sit down and we would look at a property. So one of the first buildings that I worked on when I started with him, and I didn't start in management, I started as a construction worker because I was a grad student, I needed a job, was an old school building. And the old school building sat at the back of the property. And then there was this giant yard that went all the way down to Lancaster Avenue. And he figured out that between the grade change and the amount of property that was there, he could actually dig into the front yard and build a shopping center and put a parking deck on top of the shopping center. Super cool project, a lot of engineering, and it's amazing. And 35 years later, it still works and it's so cool. Like, so you would sit down, you draw out like, how's this going to work, and how do you maximize things? So that was fun. I mean, sitting down and just like the creative process of, and it was all aspects of it too. So it was the construction of it. It was how do you execute it? How do you get it approved? And then how do you make money on it? So we would take these buildings and really try to renovate them so that they look like they did, but have new systems in and have new windows and maybe the interior gets moved around. Although a lot of times there's structural stuff because they couldn't create wide open spaces in 1850. And so you just kind of work with that. And how do you make that work? And that was so cool, the process of it. Go ahead.
Now it doesn't surprise me that in your guys' downtime during COVID, you were doing puzzles, because that's exactly what sounds like you do with your job. It's a puzzle to try and figure out how everything fits together and how it works. It's how the people in your area and in your business and in your mindsets, probably how you guys think and work best. It
is. It's how do you have all these pieces and how do you fit them together to make it work the best?
But unlike a puzzle, there's not only one way to do it.
Right.
Now that's true, which is nice.
Right.
And usually you don't have a dog on the floor that has eaten one of the pieces to your development project that makes it hard to finish.
That'll make it tough.
That's
so
awesome.
I think my favorite project that we've done recently, or we didn't actually end up doing, which is a big, long story, but we had bought the Fritz Lumber project in the center of Berwyn. It is 2 blocks from my house. It is 2 blocks from my office. And this is a perfect example. It is under 2 acres. It's not a square shape. It's a weird shape. In the very middle of it sits the Berwyn Tavern in their own little parcel. And by their parcel, they needed a lot of money, which didn't make sense when you figured out what you paid and what you got back and everything else. So we're like, okay, let's develop a downtown. So we had this plan for a downtown that was 3 separate buildings. Each building looked completely different. So one building that was close to the train station looked like a train station waiting area and like loading area, but it was actually, we had rented it out for a restaurant. And then behind that was a 10,000 square foot plaza that the community could use. And you could have outside seating, and we wanted to have Mrs. Ida is an artist. So we wanted to have a big sculpture garden, and we had to have a retaining wall and a kind of a privacy wall from the train tracks because it backed up to the train tracks. And we wanted to do something with the Veterans Association for that. And, we just had all these neat plans. Then there was the Berwyn Tavern, which, was just like in the middle of the project. And then next to it, we're going to build a building that looked like a town hall. So it was going to be a first floor retail. And all of these had second and third floor apartments. Then you had the entrance to the project and then another building. And we're like, we want it to look like downtown Manayunk. We want it to look like a row of brick stores that look like they've been put together and built together like you would see in an old town.
Right.
And we actually had Carlino's. We were talking to Carlino's Market to go into that section. And so, we were going to bring a little community. It's just going to be a little downtown. And then you'd have this great sidewalk, big wide sidewalks where people could have, seating and stuff like that. And behind it was a parking deck. I mean, it's a lot to fit into this little tiny parcel. And it's funny because, we were just, the one thing we struggled with was the parking requirements for, retail stores, restaurants, and apartments, and then fitting them all on the parcel and not exceeding the budget because you're only getting so much income in. So how much can you spend out? It didn't end up working out. So we sold the parcel and somebody else bought it and they're building an apartment building. And it's still totally not as cool as our project.
I know, because I'm 2 blocks away from that as well. So
it's going to bring people to Berwyn, which brings more businesses and supports the businesses that are here. So it'll be fine. It's just, when you have this like vision and it was great. The one thing that was very cool in that project was we bought the building under a limited partnership called WWED, which was What Would Ernest Do? So we always kept in mind, like, how would he look at this? Because he was an amazing, incredible thinker, very creative. He was the kind of guy you could, here's my problem. Here are the things that are a problem. And he just had the clarity to just say, okay, this is what you need to do. Boom, boom, boom. And it 99.9% of the time I was right.
That's awesome. So, that's a great story. I wish you had pictures of it, but obviously if it didn't get done, you wouldn't, because that'd be awesome to see.
It would have been cool. But
send us the napkins.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I want to get right into halftime because I want to make sure we get enough time in the second half as well. So we're going to get into halftime right now. So Stacey, the way we do halftime is it's not business related, not leadership related. It's simply 10 random questions. And if Glenn's feeling lucky, he can throw in a bonus 11th. He sometimes gets the feeling to do that. Okay. And we call it a lightning round. So if you only have a one-word answer, that's fine. If you have explanation, that's fine as well.
Okay,
halftime lasts about 3 minutes or so. Okay. So you ready?
Okay.
And I have an 11th.
All right.
You got one already. All right. Hopefully I don't steal it.
I don't think so.
All right. Are you a dog or a cat person? I think I know the answer based on before the meeting.
I think we all know I'm a dog person.
Okay. Have you always had dogs?
I have always had dogs, and I grew up with cats too.
Okay. If you had to vacation in one city in the United States for a week, what would that city be?
Key West, Florida.
Do you vacation there often, or is that just a place you like when you've been?
It's one we own vacation rentals that are in Key West, and I've always just loved the Key West vibe.
Awesome. All right. If you were wrongly convicted and you were on death row for some reason, wrongly convicted though, don't worry, and you had to pick your last meal, what would it be?
Oh,
yeah, I know. These are the kind of questions you get on the Playbook podcast.
Maybe sushi.
Brain buster.
Maybe sushi. Nothing cooked by my mother. Maybe good lasagna. I don't know. It would I guess I would have a lot on my plate.
Okay, yeah, the smorgasbord of everything you want. If it's your, I got you. All right. Year, make, model, and color of your very first car.
It was I think it was a 68 Volkswagen Beetle that we had painted burgundy because that was the color in the 80s. And it went into the shop every Thursday because it always had some mechanical problem.
There you go. I think that's everyone's first car, it seems like. All right. Before I get into the next two questions, I want to be sure. Do you like sports?
I do.
Okay.
But I was in band, and there's a big joke in my office because I can't catch a ball, and I'm probably not very good at anything but maybe mini golf. And
Hey,
So
Better
I
at
just have
catching
to
a
sing it
cold
that
than a
way.
ball.
All right. So who is your favorite? What is your favorite sports team? Could be college or pro.
I would say it would be probably the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Okay.
Maybe the Phillies.
Follow up on that. Do you have a favorite athlete of all time? If you don't, it's okay.
My favorite athlete of all time would be Muhammad Ali.
Okay. Good.
Great
Good.
answer.
I like it. All right. Let's move on to, I want to know this. This is good. This is one I like to ask people. You're sitting right there. Do you have a window in your office?
I do.
Okay. So you're looking out your window and right outside you see a black bear walk by.
Okay.
Okay. What is the very first thing you do? Do you grab your phone to take a picture? Do you call for help? Or do you have somebody in your office or yourself try and go scare it away?
So I would probably, so in my office, when you look out the window, it would be on the roof. And I
Okay.
would probably call someone in my office and go, oh my, somebody come and look at this.
So the roof, that'd be a scary place to see it because
Weird, right?
yeah, you're like, oh, I'm probably pretty safe in this office building. However, the bear doesn't have anywhere to go. So at some point it might get dangerous and try and break through a window. So
She's
that's a
more
whole
li-
new.
She's
realm
more
to that
likely to see a cow.
That's right.
All right. Okay. This is great. You just let me know my next question based on that mug. Coffee or tea in the morning?
Coffee.
Anything in it?
A ton of creamer.
Okay. And how long have you been drinking coffee? I actually like to know is when people started drinking coffee.
So I used to be a tea person all the time.
Okay.
And then when I discovered flavored creamer, I became a coffee person. And now my wiener dog is also a coffee person. And
Nice.
so
Okay.
we share coffee in the morning. I don't know, a couple years, not for coffee, not a long time. Tea, I drank tea all my life.
Okay. If you could have, I'm going to nix Amazon right away. Amazon is out the window. If you could have a shopping spree at any store tomorrow, what would it be?
Shopping spree at any.
Yeah.
This sounds so crazy. It would either be LL Bean or
Okay.
it would be this little French store that's in Key West that I always buy dresses from when I'm down there for work.
There you go. That's
Okay.
a great answer. Specific. I like it. All right. And finally, for me, then Glenn will come in with his question. If you could have one skill that you don't have, what would it be?
Play the piano.
I knew. You know what's funny? That was going to be my example. I was going to say one skill such as like play the piano. I'm glad I didn't burn it for you.
Totally. Play the piano and I would speak Spanish. Two things
Okay.
I'm not done, but I would love to do. So maybe in my retirement. If I don't
Piano's
have
a great
of
one.
arthritis in my hands.
So after playing offensive line for years, I'm worried my hands are going to be like this when I'm about 60. So doing the piano, it might be more frustrating to finally learn it and then not have the physical capabilities to play it for me. But I've always wanted to as well. I just don't know if I'd had the patience either, but that's for another day. Glenn, do you have the bonus question?
I do. This is the skeletons in your closet section. No, I'm kidding. I'm always fascinated, people, successful people. When do you wake up in the morning?
About somewhere between, well, it depends on the time of year, but usually about 5:00.
All right.
And in the wintertime, sometimes like 6:30, just
Okay.
when it's sun related, I guess.
Yeah, need a little sun going on.
Mhm.
It seems to be a common theme that everybody likes to get up early and get things started.
And all my life I've been a morning person. And my parents owned a business. So we were I was an only child. So the three of us were out the door at 7 a.m. or 6:30. So I've always just been a morning person. And, about 9:00 at night when we're watching TV or doing something else, I'm definitely like dozing off. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm going to kick off the second half if that's okay.
All right.
My question is, I want to get to, because I live in this area and they always tell you in business, the why is so important. And I can speak from experience. When I think about EDA Enterprises, the why really is like, man, these is just, they make you feel good because I know how much your organization, you're the steward of a lot of giving. You do a lot of giving, and you're involved in a lot of charitable organizations. You make a huge difference in the world, really. So tell us a little bit about that and how that enhances your business.
So, yeah, it's funny. We were just talking about this recently with through Rotary, and I grew up in a small town, and my mom and dad owned a small business, and my mom was maybe is one of the kindest, most generous people I've ever met. She would just show up at people's house that she knew were in trouble or having problems with groceries, and I would go with her. So like you just learn what to do. So then I go to grad school at Villanova, and I get this part-time construction job with Enterprises, and Ernest is the same way. Like it's just in the fabric of the being of people who were my mentors and how they do it. So Ida Enterprises is a family-owned business too, and Mr. and Mrs. Ida and their daughters they give back all the time. They
really is amazing.
And you know what? It was never ever done to enhance their business. It was done because it was the right thing to do.
I love that answer.
Yep.
And because they were extremely grateful for the community that gave back to them, that made their business successful. So it was easy to want to turn around and give it back to the community. And that's what we've just done all the time. So I don't know if it helps. I think it helps us. It doesn't hurt us. And you know what? At the end of the day, I can put my head on my pillow, or I can wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and know I'm a good person and know I've done the right thing. So.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So Stacey, we only have actually about 5 minutes left, and I do want to get one more question in before we get to our Hail Mary question. That question is, I'm gonna hope our editing team, we can cue some Jeopardy music, because I want to give you like 30 seconds to think on this.
Okay.
I want the Mount Rushmore. So the four top leadership traits. You're a president. You're a leader. You have to lead people. From your experience, what do you think the 4 words or traits that are most important to being a leader? And I'll, again, cue the Jeopardy music. We'll see if they can do that. And if they can't.
Okay. Yeah, right? Okay. So I would say staying calm in the storm.
I like that already.
I would say admitting when you're wrong.
Love it.
I love it.
Love it.
I would say knowing that when you make a decision and you're going down a path, if it's not the right path, you pivot. Change path without feeling like you can't, just because you haven't completed that task, maybe it's not the wrong way you're going, and you got to pivot and go to the right.
You don't have to
way.
die on the sword.
Yes.
Right.
And you have to do it. And you have to be confident that you did it right.
Yep.
And the last thing would be surrounding yourself with people who are amazing and smarter than you, and able and committed to what your cause is.
I love it. I love it. I love that they just weren't vague answers. You know what I mean? Like there was specifics in there, and you can tell that you've been in a leadership position for a while because you knew exactly what to say. And honestly, which ones are very important in a leadership world.
They weren't planned.
The only issue I had
is you did not give me any heads up. I had no homework before this. I just need to qualify all of that.
Right, exactly.
The only issue I had is you didn't start your answer with "what is." If we're going with the Jeopardy. All right, so that was great. That was the second half. Again, your answers have been phenomenal. I tell Glenn all the time, if we actually ask fewer questions, that means the guest is locked in my opinion, because you're giving thorough answers. We absolutely love that. So this is our final question. It's our best play. It's our Hail Mary question. We ask it to everybody. Go back to 22-year-old Stacey, but you know everything, and you've had every experience that you've had up to this point in your life. What advice would you give yourself back at 22?
It's going to be fine.
Oh, okay. I like that. Because you know what? I feels like 22 wasn't that long ago for me, but you have some of those.
You mocked me.
What? Not on purpose. Not on purpose. You do have that feeling though sometimes, and everyone, even if even the people that have the most perfect professional life of all time, you always have that feeling like, what is tomorrow? What is next year? What are 5 years, 10 years going to hold for me? Is everything going to be okay? So if you could confidently tell yourself back then it's going to be okay, I'm sure you would ease yourself a little bit. But sometimes
I wish I could have known that at the time, because my personal life took roller coasters. My first husband had cystic fibrosis. He needed a lung transplant. Like, it was crazy. He was very sick at the same time that my boss, Ernest, also had cancer and was very sick. At some point in there, throw in a little lung cancer for me. It was like all these crazy things kept getting thrown at me. And in the back of my mind, it's like, it'll be fine. And people say, oh, would you do it over again? I'm like, absolutely. Every bit of it would change a thing. I am the person I am today because of all those things. So it's okay. It'll be fine.
That is fantastic. And sounds like for you to say that, it also sounds like 22-year-old you probably needed a few of those talks, because that's a hell of a lot to go through at a young age.
It was fine.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I appreciate that answer. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who need to hear that as well, who think they're having, a hard time. And then they hear what you were going through, and that's a lot. So the fact that you're able to come through and still give yourself that advice, that's incredible. And it's a testament to you. So I'm gonna let Glenn take this away.
All right. Well, Stacey, it's been a privilege to have you on today. And I'm going to give you about, 30 seconds to tell people how they can get a hold of you. Anything you want to tell our listeners?
Oh, sure. We're at Eda Enterprises. We're in Berwyn, Pennsylvania. Our business is real estate, and we rent phenomenal spaces to phenomenal people. But what we're passionate about, honestly, is making the community better. Glenn and I know each other through Rotary. I got to tell you, I love Rotary, and I'm going to give a shout out to Rotary more than I am Verita. Oops. But it's just, if you want to make a difference in the community, and you want to just like love yourself and your life and meet people you never would meet in your normal course of life, join Rotary and give back. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Well, we could do about 4 episodes with you, but
seriously,
I'd like to thank everybody for listening. My name's Glenn Amaral.
I'm Andy Phillips.
Until next time, what's in your playbook? Be sure to comment and like wherever you see us.